Yeah.
And every story can change the world. Together we are Global Speakers Talk.
Have you ever wondered why we keep repeating habits we desperately want to stop? What if those habits aren't signs of weakness, but evidence that our minds are simply trying to protect us? Welcome to Global Speakers Talk, where we bring you meaningful conversations with global experts, thought leaders, and changemakers whose stories inspire healing, growth, and transformation. I'm your host, Elvira Hopper. Today, I'm honored to welcome a very special lady in my life, Jessie Morgan, founder of Bear Becoming, mental health advocate and educator whose courageous story has reached millions around the world. She's also my fabulous digital marketer, but we'll talk more about that another time. After living with trichotillomania, did I pronounce that right, Jessie?
Trichotillomania.
Okay, thank you. Trichotillomania for over 25 years, Jessie transformed her personal journey into a global movement, helping people understand shame, emotional coping, and the neuroscience behind healing. Jessie, welcome to Global Speakers Talk. It's an absolute privilege to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So let's just dive right in, shall we? Here are your 7 deep dive questions. Number 1, we're going to start with this one, Jessie. For 25 years, you lived with trichotillomania before publicly shaving your head. That was an incredibly vulnerable moment. What was happening internally that finally gave you the courage to stop hiding and to tell your story?
Yeah, that's a big question. I think the reason why I shaved my head, it wasn't a decision to stop hiding. But what brought me there was living with that shame for 25 years and the way it directed my life, constantly trying to look for ways to conceal, hoping that people aren't noticing. All of the real estate that it took up in my head, essentially, is what motivated me to make that decision, because I just felt like it was holding me back so much, and there was so much more that I could offer the world if I didn't have this constant shameful narrative happening in my head at all times. So it wasn't really a matter of me being ready or feeling fearless. It was just like not wanting my fear to make the decisions of my life anymore.
Wow, that's so powerful, Jessie. So many people believe coping mechanisms are personal failures, and they're wrong. Sorry. You've completely reframed that belief. Can you explain why our brains develop coping mechanisms like BFRBs? And I'd like you to explain that and what purpose they're actually serving.
Yeah, so our BFRB is a body focused repetitive behavior. So it's
Say that
anything.
again. Sorry, you kind of cut out a little bit. Body
Oh,
focused, repetitive
repetitive.
behavior?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
So trichotillomania is hair pulling disorder. Other people deal with skin picking, nail biting, cuticle biting, cheek biting, etc. So it's anything that you have kind of gotten into this automatic behavior with this repeatedly, and it's hard to stop through willpower. Actually, impossible to stop through just sheer willpower. So the reason why people develop coping behaviors is really just to protect ourselves and to regulate ourselves. That's all our body wants to do. At our basic physiological level, we are just energy, like potassium and sodium, negative and positives, just trying to regulate at all times. So once your body finds a way that works for it, whether that's gratification, escaping from discomfort, just keeping you either regulated from being overstimulated or understimulated, your brain will pick up on whatever relief it has received from whatever your coping behavior is, and then you will become more susceptible to that behavior becoming automatic. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, that makes total sense. Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's just a way of calming down your nervous system, and you found that that was the the trigger that made you feel more safe in your body, and so you just repeated it. Is that correct?
Yeah. And the thing about
Yeah.
trichotillomania and body focused repetitive behaviors, I'm sure it applies to other coping behaviors as well, but it might start off as a coping behavior or a regulation, um, and turn into just a thing that you automatically do at any given moment. It seems like, I could be happy and I could still be pulling out my hair. It was very confusing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's more about, yeah, I guess, regulation in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah. 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 So it's is it self-soothing in a way, Jesse?
Yeah, definitely. So
Yeah.
that's what your brain has sort of picked up. Some people are binge eaters or smokers
Yeah.
or gamblers. There's all different types of coping behaviors, and
Yeah.
it's just whatever your body has picked up on. Okay, I was searching for dopamine and I got it this way, so I'm just going to keep asking you to
Right.
repeat that behavior.
Right, right. So it's a dopamine rush. Is that correct, Jesse?
Definitely.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That is so interesting. So one of your powerful messages, Jesse, is replacing shame with curiosity. I love that. Why is shame such a dangerous emotion for healing? And how does curiosity become the doorway to real transformation?
Shame is so dangerous because it is identity based. When we give, handle our issues with shame, we're telling ourselves that we're not worthy or we're bad or we are fundamentally something is wrong with us.
Right.
And it's detrimental. And how does that help? When
It
ultimately
doesn't.
we're just
Yeah.
humans, we're all just
Yeah.
experiencing life. Um, so when you shift it into curiosity, it turns things from being your identity to being information to get to know yourself better. And
Right.
a word that you like to use, an invitation to get to know
Invitation.
yourself
Yeah.
better. Um, so instead of asking what is wrong with me, I always tell people to switch it over to what's happening here. Um, and that just, like, I think allows you to take the first steps to try to heal.
Right, right. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and I remember hearing, I'm sure you've heard this, and but maybe some of our viewers haven't. Um, Guilt and shame, they kind of go together. Guilt is I did something bad, and shame is I am bad, right? You've heard that before.
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you kind of spoke to it. So here's another one that you might be able to use because some people are like, what's the difference between guilt and shame? Yeah, there it is. Guilt, I did something bad. Shame, I am bad. So to have that curiosity around, why am I doing this, and to become self-aware, is that a way that people heal from this, Jesse?
Definitely. I think that's might be the only way to heal from this.
Yeah.
To not look at yourself like a failure for doing something that your body just wants to do. Like, in general, body focused repetitive behaviors are essentially something that humans do naturally,
Yeah.
grooming behaviors that have just gone too far. So your
Right.
body is actually doing what it's supposed to do. It's just
Right.
needs some redirection. So
Yeah.
yeah, you have to be
Yeah.
able to be open to looking at that and figuring out ways
Right.
to manage it.
Right, right.
I
Yeah.
heard,
And I'm sorry to veer into this area, but I know this has been an issue for a lot of kids, and kids I know rather well. Is cutting another behavior that does give a dopamine rush, and that's why some kids get into that kind of behavior. Are you familiar with that one at all? Can you speak to that?
I can't speak to that, unfortunately. Yeah, I think that is not really related to BFRBs. I know that much because BFRBs are not considered self-harm, whereas cutting is considered self-harm. It's about healing something for sure. Um,
Okay.
whereas BFRBs have, of course, it's more like subconscious that we're looking for that dopamine hit.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Okay, okay. Thank you for yeah. It was just a curiosity I had, but yeah, they're not related. Thank you for sharing that. Your content has reached millions because people finally feel understood. What do you think we're getting wrong as a society, Jessie, when it comes to mental health conversations, emotional regulation, and invisible struggles?
I think we're getting, I mean, I can't really speak to exactly what we're getting wrong in general, but from my perspective is we're not talking about our invisible struggles enough. And because of that, it's keeping everything in the dark and keeping them more and more visible. Yeah, I think that the best thing that we can do is talk openly about these things, have the conversations, and let people know that they're not alone. And that's when we can start healing, and people will have more of an understanding of what people are going through, not behind closed doors, but like not obviously. Like,
Yeah,
you don't see that something's physically wrong with me, so you think I'm not struggling, and that needs to change. That's not fair because
right.
people are a lot of people are struggling with mental health issues.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that we talked about once actually was um, somebody had mentioned on social media that she made a post. She's Barbara Lally. She's a trichotillomania advocate.
Okay.
And somebody had commented on her post that it was ridiculous to expect healthcare professionals to understand um, every obscure behavior or disorder, which I think is totally true. You don't need, like, we shouldn't expect every healthcare professional to understand them. But I think something that's very detrimental in the mental health space is that professionals will often try to help the person out, even if they don't know about it, instead of looking for a specialist to help them. Um,
Ah,
I'm speaking in my own experience with the family doctors that I've had and the therapists that I've had, where I had to muster up the courage to let them know that I've been pulling my hair out and I was living with so much shame about it.
yeah.
To be met with, I don't know anything about that, but maybe we can try you on some medication,
Oh,
or just like sitting in a therapist's office chair at 12 years old, and the therapist said, I don't understand why you're doing that. Why are you doing that? It made me feel so much worse.
oh,
Um,
wow.
but it took my most recent family doctor to say, I don't know anything about that, but let me look for somebody who does
Yes.
know about that. And she used her network to find me a psychotherapist and an entire department at Sunnybrook Hospital here that specializes in BFRBs. So
Yeah.
that's that's another thing I guess we're getting wrong as a society, and I think with more discussion about this, hopefully
Yeah.
things start to change.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. What a great answer. Um, so you often speak about habit loops and neuroscience. For someone who's caught in a repetitive behaviors, whether it's hair pulling, skin picking, perfectionism, or anxiety, where should they begin if they truly want lasting change?
Yeah, so we have to be able to look at our behaviors objectively. So the first step, of course, is removing the shame,
Yeah.
um, and becoming a detective and a researcher into understanding where it's showing up, how often it's showing up, um, what's going on. And that way you're able to put things in place to interrupt it or intercept it or prevent it from even happening. I know people who deal with alcoholism, they avoid bars for the first year of their sobriety, or
Yeah.
anticipate of holidays like New Year's Eve. You know, keeping those things in mind. I guess it's a little bit easier when you are doing something not automatic, where as a body focused repetitive behavior is automatic. So you can be pulling your hair 365 days a year, 24 hours a day if you really wanted to. I don't know.
Right.
So it's harder to figure out like what those triggers are sometimes. I know for myself, like I just thought everything seems to be a trigger. Like I'm pulling my hair all the time. But it wasn't until I started tracking it that I actually could see that there are certain times of day, there are like certain feelings or people that I might be exposed to that could trigger it more. Um,
Right.
when I started therapy, we learned this term called catastrophizing, which is when you kind of have this all or nothing thinking about
Yeah.
your behavior. So
Hmm.
if you say like, I pulled my hair yesterday, so nothing's working and I'm just failing at this. But once you start tracking things, like for me, I have a calendar in my kitchen where I write down if I had a spell, I'll write down how many hairs I pulled that day. Once I started doing that, I was able to see that, yes, I pulled my hair yesterday, but that was my first time all month. Whereas before I was pulling every day for a month. So
Wow.
that catastrophizing can be minimized and you can actually start to see progress
Wow.
and have hope and
Yeah.
see where you can intercept. For example, like, sorry, I tend to lose my thoughts. Um, I heard somebody's story recently. Instead of calling it mental illness, she called it mental willingness.
Oh,
And
okay.
I thought that really was clever because it really is about what you're willing to do
Yeah.
to try to help yourself.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really comforting. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, that's amazing. So you've transformed one of your deepest struggles into your life's purpose. Looking back, what has your younger self taught the woman you've become today?
That's a really tough question because I think for so much of my life I was just living in survival with this, like trying to hide this disorder.
Yeah.
But I do think that everything I learned in those early days about shame, um, being told that I was doing something bad, um, and that I was hurting the people that loved me.
Yeah.
I think I needed that part of my story to heal um, my family, actually, my lineage. Um, I'm not sure if that really answers the question. I'm not. I
Yeah.
think that it's important for my family to have learned that shame doesn't heal.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Jesse. So, if someone watching today has spent years believing that they're broken, what would you want them to know about healing, self worth, and learning to trust themselves again?
I think I would invite them to wonder if what they're dealing with isn't evidence that something's wrong with them, but instead that there might actually be something that they haven't understood yet. Um, yeah, you don't have to understand everything about yourself. I think you could just take it one day at a time, take every day as a new opportunity to learn more about yourself. And don't compare yourself to anybody else because every single person on the planet is regulating and trying to avoid discomfort, just like you. That's just part of the human
Yeah.
experience. Um, it's comparing apples to
Yes.
oranges, really. So just compare yourself to how you did yesterday, and
Yeah.
that's all that matters. Is you're just still trying to get better and take care of yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And I believe that awareness, self-awareness is power. You know, you have the power to make a different choice when you're self-aware. And Yeah, and it's just a day to day understanding yourself better and your triggers, and yeah, I love that. And I the word that's coming through for me is just having self-compassion, right? Self-compassion, self-love. That's why the inner work, in my opinion, is everything, because when you learn to love yourself, in my language, love your vibe, when you learn to, live as your higher self, yeah, you'll still deal with things, but you look at it differently. You don't shame yourself. You're like, no, I'm just a human, and this is how I'm getting by. Everybody's got their own way of doing it, and there's nothing wrong with me. Like, that's the most important thing, is being with people that understand. Like, being in your environment, Jesse. I think you provide a really safe space for people to, not judge themselves, and learn to have self compassion. I'm just reading into that. Does that feel right for you?
Thank you. I mean, I hope so. That's my goal for sure.
Yeah, and you've got a ton of followers on TikTok. Just off the record here, how many followers do you have now on TikTok?
I just hit over 7K.
7K. Wow, that's amazing. I'm giving you some snaps of congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
You're
I'm just
helping a lot.
the whole purpose of my TikTok is to talk about this openly and build community. That's my only intention there. So it's really cool to see that that's resonating with so many people.
Yeah, I love that. What is your handle on TikTok, in case somebody's watching here live and wants to go right away to your TikTok? What's your handle?
It's Bear Becoming, one word. BARE Becoming.
Yeah, Bear Becoming.
Mhm.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Um, so Jesse, if shame could speak, what lies would it tell us? And if curiosity could answer back, what truth would it reveal?
Shame could. Sorry, can you say that one?
Yeah. If shame could speak, what lies would it tell us? And if curiosity could answer back, what truth would it reveal?
If shame could speak, it would tell us that we're not worthy. There's something fundamentally wrong with us. We should be ashamed of ourselves, obviously. And curiosity would say, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just a human, and you have lots to learn about yourself. Just like the universe, we're full of mysteries, and
Yeah.
um, we get to be here to figure it all out. So.
Wow, that's beautiful, Jesse. I love it. All right, so now I have some rapid fire questions for you. So just nice short answers here. One word that describes healing from your perspective.
The first word that came to my head was safe.
Sorry, say that again.
The first word that came to my head was safety.
Safety. I love that. Yes, you need to feel safe in order to heal. I love that. What's one daily practice that keeps you emotionally grounded?
Stretching
Stretching. Very nice.
every
Awesome.
morning.
A book that changed your life.
Ooh. Um, it's kind of cliche, but I would say Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. Very good. Yes. Habit stacking. So good. So good. James Clear. One misconception people have about mental health.
That not everybody has it.
Oh,
It's just
okay.
interesting to me that some people think, oh, some people have mental health and other people don't. No, we all do.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. What gives you hope every day, Jesse?
Seeing progress, I think that gives me hope. Like I said, tracking for me, for my issues that I deal with,
Yeah.
that gives me hope and keeps me from catastrophizing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's so beautiful. And James Clear's habits really help to, put things down and track so that you see how you're doing. I think that's wonderful. What's one message your younger self needed to hear?
That nothing is wrong with her. She really needed to hear that. I I needed to hear that up until I turned 32 years old. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. Complete this sentence. Self-compassion begins when?
You get curious. Where'd you go? Where did she go?
Hi.
Hi.
I had to leave there. I don't know what happened, but so the question was self-compassion begins when?
You want to understand yourself. You get curious.
You get curious. Yeah, beautiful. So here is a final signature question for you, Jessie. Before we close, if someone watching this conversation is secretly struggling with shame, anxiety, or emotional pain and has never told another person, what would you say directly to them today?
Um, I would say that I keep coming back to this, but think about it as an invitation to get to know yourself better, and that you have the privilege to do so, um, because nobody's ever suffered from getting to know themselves better. It's always
Thank you, everyone.
Together we are global speakers talk.